For humans, guessing someone's age is usually straightforward. But when it comes to animals, it's an entirely different story. Once they reach adulthood, they don't age in ways we can easily detect. So when their true ages are revealed, the numbers often leave us speechless. It's almost unbelievable how long some animals can live. From the oldest bird to a recently discovered shockingly old deep-sea creature, here are 20 of the oldest living creatures on Earth. Number 20. Bowhead Whale. Now here's a creature that you can look at and say, yeah, they're gonna live a long time. Whales are easily some of the most majestic creatures in the world, and given how they live in waters and how in tune they are with the oceans that they travel through, it only makes sense that they could have a long life. In the case of the bowhead whale, it's a creature that many estimate can live to be up to 200 years. They have the largest mouth of any animal, representing almost 1/3 the length of their body. That is really big, but how big is it exactly? Well, how about 4 meters long? That is big enough. Going back to its age, the first one was measured after it had been killed, and it was about 130 years old. Shocked by this, they went and found some living whales and found that one of them may have actually been around for about 211 years. Further analysis from Australian scientists suggests that they could be about 268 years at max. Whales clearly don't mess around when it comes to their age, and that's why they should be protected at all costs instead of allowing the whaling industries to thin out their numbers even further. Number 19. Jonathan the tortoise. Now, I noted before that there are certain creatures in the world that humanity is in tune with in regards to knowing how long they are likely to last if you were to find one. When it comes to turtles and tortoises, they're usually at the top of the list. These guys can last a really long time. For the best example of this, you need only to look at Jonathan the tortoise. To be very specific on the matter, Jonathan is a Seychelles giant tortoise, and he's been around for a really long time. But how long, you may be asking? As of this year, in 2024, he's about 191 years old. Oh, and that also makes him the oldest land animal in the world that anybody knows of. Jonathan hatched around 1832 and then was brought to St. Helena from the Seychelles in 1882 along with 3 other tortoises at about 50 years of age. Since then, he's lived on the land of the governor's house, known as the plantation house, and is actually taken care of by the government itself. Now, there could be a joke to be made here, but I like Jonathan, so I'm not going to do that. It should also be noted that the government needs to take care of Jonathan because of his age, and it's left him in not the best position to take care of himself. By that, I refer to how he's actually blind, he can't smell anything, and he often gets mugged by his fellow tortoises whenever he accidentally drops his food. Despite all of that, though, Jonathan is overall quite healthy, and the people who care for him give him a proper diet so he can keep on ticking. The tortoise is so popular that when people like the royal family of England come to St. Helena, they always try to see Jonathan. Number 18. The immortal jellyfish. When I talk about immortality, it technically can mean quite a few things, especially when you dive into the fantasy and sci-fi realms. Often, things like that depict a lot of stuff in various ways, but in the case of this video, I'm talking about the ability for one entity to truly live on forever so long as they don't die from something physical. In other words, their body's not going to grow so old that it dies, like with most animals. On the surface, that seems to be impossible. Everything dies in the end, except there might be a unique exception in the form of the immortal jellyfish. This is a 100% real creature of the deep that has one of the most stunning and unbelievable abilities that you'll ever find. Can actually de-age itself. Specifically, it can go into a fully mature adult stage of its life, do its thing, and then revert itself back to its immature form just to start aging up again. Equally as important, it can do this under a variety of conditions. For example, if it gets harmed by a predator or gets sick or just feels the stress of the environment, it can actually revert back to its immature state in order to get better and then go back to the adult form over time. Given that there is no true limit to this kind of ability, it also means that the jellyfish is immortal outside of physically getting killed by another entity or a disease coming in and taking it out before it can revert to its previous form. The fact that it can do this has stunned scientists for many years, and naturally, they're studying that jellyfish to try and figure out just how they can replicate the process so that they can possibly help people who need to get younger in order to survive. Number 17. Ocean Quahog. Humans can sometimes be rather forgetful. We eat a whole bunch of things that are alive in one form or another, and we happily digest them without issue, unless they're not cooked properly. Clams are one of those things that are living beings, and yet we harvest them and have nice seafood meals out of them. When it comes to the ocean quahog, this is one of the popular kinds of clams that are harvested once they reach maturity and then sold as food. What you may not realize, though, is that potentially you could be eating an entity that is many hundreds of years old. The oldest ocean quahog that was found and measured by scientists was stated to be 507 years old, and it was actually still growing when it was caught. So, nobody really knows what the upper limits of its age would be. The reason for the long life cycle is due to how they grow, which in this case is slowly. They sometimes only grow during the summer season, and that means that they're still for the rest of it. It really kind of makes you wonder how it evolved to only grow during certain parts of the year. Number 16. Wisdom, the Lycaon albatross. Birds are definitely a species that you wouldn't expect to have the longest of lifespans. You can likely picture ones like hawks or eagles living a few decades, but not much longer than that. Enter Wisdom, the Lycaon albatross, who is the oldest bird in the world today and is over 70 years old based on certain figures. One of those being that the bird was banded back in 1956, 5 years after she had hatched, and was still alive by the time that 2020 rolled around. Wisdom was still laying eggs at that point, and before you ask, the last time that she was spotted was in December of 2023. So, by all accounts, she's probably still out there. Many are grateful for her longevity because of how low the numbers of the albatross population got, and the longer that she remains alive, the better the population's going to be. Now it's time for today's topic. OceanX has made headlines yet again as their divers have documented what is now believed to be the oldest living sea creature ever recorded. The discovery, made during an expedition in the deep, dark waters of the Arctic Ocean, features a giant octopus estimated to be over 500 years old. This ancient marvel shatters the previous record held by Greenland sharks, known for their remarkable lifespans of up to 400 years. The colossal octopus, nicknamed Eldra, measures over 24 feet in length and exhibits deep, textured features on its skin, evidence of its incredible age. Unlike Greenland sharks, which grow slowly in frigid waters, scientists believe Eldra's longevity is tied to its unique habitat and extremely low metabolic rate, which allows it to conserve energy over centuries. Footage of the encounter is yet to be released to the public, but a single haunting photograph shared by OceanX has already captured imaginations worldwide. The image shows a lone diver dwarfed by the ancient creature, its eyes exuding a wisdom accumulated over centuries. For now, Eldra stands as a testament to the mysteries still hidden in our oceans, and researchers are eager to learn what secrets this incredible survivor may reveal. Number 15. The Aspen Grove. While some would not define trees as creatures, they are a living part of this world, and they show their age better than anyone. However, in Utah, there is an aspen grove known as the Trembling Giant, and it's apparently, and I'm not kidding here, 80,000 years old. The grove is actually a single clonal colony of a male quaking aspen. Simply put, it essentially is one massive root system that began life an estimated 80,000 years ago, and so the trees themselves are simply clones that the roots use in order to stay alive. What's even more trippy is that because those roots are living beings and not trees, there's a chance that they could even be actually older. Number 14. Anoxyclix jubini. Now, for a real shift in tone to things that I am unable to pronounce, we're going to talk about sponges. No, not ones like on the pineapple under the sea, but ones that are both alive and do live in places like Antarctica. Known more commonly as the giant volcano sponge, these are some of the biggest living sponges that you're ever going to see, as they can be 1.5 meters wide and nearly 2 meters tall. And that makes for one big sponge. Yet, what blows people away is the fact that the giant volcano sponge can apparently live up to, are you ready for this, about 15,000 years. That's what scientists believe is the estimated lifespan of these sponges, and it's absolutely crazy. The reason for their lack of growth is really their lack of growth. Because of them living in both cold waters and being under a lot of pressure due to that, they just don't exactly grow. And if you don't grow older, you technically never die. Number 13. Tuatara. Would you like to have a venture and guess as to what a tuatara is? I know you want to. Well, it's a kind of reptile, but you shouldn't call it a lizard, as it's much more than that. Remember earlier in the fancy topic when I talked about living fossils? Well, here is one of those. The tuatara is actually the last remaining species of an order that existed back in the Mesozoic era. This means that the species has been around in one form or another for hundreds of millions of years. Some may dispute that the tuatara is a living fossil, but there are actually facts to back it up. Going now to its lifespan, the extent this creature can live is quite a while. Many have lasted for over 35 years, and there have been some that have been kept in captivity and lasted even 100 years. When you think about it, given how long the species has been around, it's not that odd that a singular one has had such a long lifespan. Number 12. Rough-eye rockfish. Now, you may have not seen this one coming. It's one thing to say that a whale can live a long time or even a tortoise can have a long lifespan, but a fish? Well, animals can sometimes surprise us, and the rough-eye rockfish is one such surprising entry on the list. Apparently, it's not only the singular fish that lasts a long time, but the entire genus that it's part of. However, focusing solely on the rough-eye rockfish for now, we find ourselves looking at one that can last up to 205 years. Unlike some of the other creatures on this list, there is no rhyme nor reason as to why they were able to live so long. Perhaps they just evolved to be that way. Nobody can really say. What can be said is that they do live lives that are somewhat solitary, and they're not afraid to be in caves and crevices for a long time, so perhaps that can be a factor in all of it. Then again, with them being alive for so long, It just leaves them open to being food for predators eventually or being caught by some fishermen. And yes, there are fishermen who love going after fish like the rough-eye rockfish. Number 11. Henry the crocodile. Crocodiles are an interesting creature, not only due to their bodies but also how they try and track down their prey and then eat them. They can be very vicious, and yet it's almost mesmerizing to watch them go to work. The question remains, though, how old does a crocodile really get? For a lot of animals on this list, it's going to feel impossible to get a true age, and yet when it comes to Henry, we know his exact age because we know exactly when he was captured. You see, he was caught back in 1903, and he's still living today. That means that Henry is about 120 years old or more, which is really old. I'll even admit that I didn't even know that crocs could live that long. The irony here is that he was captured by a man named Sir Henry, who was an elephant hunter. Why he decided to get a crocodile instead of an elephant is beyond me, but whatever works. Regardless, he caught that crocodile and named it after himself, and he's been in captivity ever since. That containment has allowed a whole lot of people to research Henry over the years and see just how long crocodiles can last, which is apparently a really long time. He's also a rather physically imposing specimen. Henry specifically is a Nile crocodile that's about 5 meters in length and weighs about 700 kilograms. When you see video of him next to a human, well, humans look pretty freaking tiny in comparison, and they should be grateful that Henry doesn't go, ooh, dinner and just latch onto them, which he could totally do by the way. After all, Nile crocodiles are infamous for how they occasionally do eat humans. In truth, Henry's age speaks to a general lack of understanding that we have about certain creatures. Sure, with dogs and cats and certain birds, even bugs at points, we can guess their general lifespan, and we know just how long they have. But with animals we don't see on the regular, like crocodiles, it can be much more tough to know how long they last, and sometimes the answers are truly awe-inspiring. Number 10. Red sea urchins. Now, to be honest, sea urchins in general are the types of creatures that you look at and say, yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and stay away from that. I mean, after all, these are the creatures that have the spines that you don't really want to step on, especially if they contain toxins inside of them. The spines of the red sea urchin not only serve as a defense mechanism but also help it navigate rocky ocean floors, providing stability and protection from predators like otters and starfish. In the case of the red sea urchin, this is indeed a living creature that is not afraid to both poke you and take its sweet time getting to where it wants to go. What's fascinating is that red sea urchins play a crucial role in marine ecosystems by feeding on kelp and helping to regulate the growth of underwater forests. However, overpopulation of these urchins can lead to devastating effects, turning lush kelp forests into barren urchin barrens. It'll literally just crawl along the ocean floor when it wants to move. Interestingly, red sea urchins have a unique jaw structure known as Aristotle's lantern, which enables them to scrape algae and even carve out crevices in rocks to create hiding spots. As for its age, it can vary widely. Some scientists claim that the average lifespan is somewhere in the range of 30 years old, while some others also claim that they can live to be up to 200 years old. This incredible longevity is thought to be due to their ability to continuously repair their DNA, keeping them biologically young even as they age. I mean, after all, it is slow and steady that wins the race, right? It's amazing to think that a creature so small and seemingly simple can have such a profound impact on its environment and boast a lifespan that rivals some of the longest living organisms on Earth. Number 9. Oldest cats. I'll do a 2-for-1 special here to help show just how long these cats have been around. The current oldest living cat, as confirmed by the Guinness Book of Records, is Flossie, a cat that was born in 1995 and currently sits at about 28 years old. Flossie lives in Orpington, England, with her owner, Victoria Green. Flossie's longevity has baffled veterinarians, as she has lived far beyond the average lifespan of a typical house cat, which is usually around 12 to 18 years. Her owner attributes Flossie's extended life to a loving environment, a steady diet of high-quality food, and regular health checkups. Now, that makes for a really old cat, and props to that owner for helping Flossie to last that long. However, if you want to know the oldest household cat to have ever lived, that would be Cream Puff, who lived to be an astounding 38 years old. Cream Puff resided in Austin, Texas, with her owner, Jake Perry, who famously also cared for another record-holding cat, Grandpa Rex Allen, who lived to 34 years. Perry's methods for cat care included an unusual diet of eggs, turkey bacon, and broccoli, along with a playful, enriched home environment. I mean, could you imagine having a cat for over 2 or 3 decades, especially if its name was Cream Puff? For many owners, the bond shared with such a long-lived pet would be like having an unbreakable family connection. I surely can't, nor would I want to even attempt it. It just goes to show that you can sometimes have a pet who will truly be with you possibly forever. Long-lived cats like these highlight the incredible resilience and adaptability of our feline friends, inspiring owners to cherish every moment with their beloved companions. Number 8. Futsala. Now, we know that elephants have long memories, but do they have long lives? As with all things, it sometimes depends on the individual that you're looking at. In the case of Vatsala, it is truly a rare specimen that is not only over 100 years old but is the only recorded elephant to have reached that impressive feat. For the record, the previous oldest elephant was 89 years old, which in itself is still odd but not 105 like Vatsala is. Vatsala is an Asian elephant, which further makes them unique amongst their kin, as other Asian elephants tend to only last about 60 years. And again, that is a long lifespan, but it is not over 100. While it is impressive that the elephant lasted so long, you can tell by its body that it's not exactly in peak health. You can see spots on its body that are clearly from old age, and then there's its trunk, which is basically just lying on the ground instead of being held up by the elephant. You can see its skin is rather baggy in some places, and it honestly just looks old. And one can only imagine what the elephant has chosen not to forget in its long lifetime. Number 7. The Greenland Shark. I'll admit right off the bat that this next creature has a ridiculously long lifespan, but it's also one that's honestly a bit hard to prove, which is why I'm giving more of an estimate here than a hard number like with Henry or Jonathan. Meet the Greenland shark. You find this shark off the coast of Greenland. The waters of the North Atlantic and the Arctic are where they reside, and they're really, really cold. And that's why there's so little information about these sharks. This includes anything we may know about their lifespan because they simply cannot be reached. Just as important, they are one of the biggest sharks around, measuring in at about 6.4 meters and 1,000 kilograms at max. They're not sharks that you really want to mess with. Yet, when it comes to their lifespans, it's truly shocking, as it's believed that they can live up to 500 years. Sure, some of the lowballs of that estimate are around 250 years, but that's still quite a long time for a single animal to live. Based on some research, it's even been speculated that they don't reach certain levels of maturity, such as for mating, until they're about 150 years old. So, then how do we know this? Well, there has been some kind of research on Greenland sharks that have actually been captured in the past, and they used a special dating system that used eye crystals to measure their age. The shark they had captured appeared to be 392 years old, give or take about 120 years. Regardless of how long they do actually live, it's a fact that when they have children, it takes a while for them to grow enough to birth. It takes 8 to 18 years at times to have a child, which can make protecting the population numbers kind of hard to do. Even despite all that, people want to keep the species alive so that they can learn more about them and possibly figure out how it is that they live so long. Number 6. The Pacific geoduck. Despite what the name may imply, the Pacific geoduck is not a duck at all. Instead, it's another kind of clam, albeit one that doesn't exactly look like a clam but actually is one. The geoduck is native to the coastal waters of the eastern North Pacific Ocean, from Alaska to Baja California, and what separates it from other clams is the rather long siphon that protrudes out a rather long way. This siphon, which can stretch up to 3 feet, is used to filter water for food particles, as the geoduck spends most of its life buried deep in the sand. And yes, as you guessed, it is also one of the longest living animals of any kind in our world, with a typical lifespan of about 140 years. Incredibly, this makes the geoduck one of the longest living mollusks, second only to the ocean quahog. However, the oldest one was recorded at 179 years old. These clams are also highly prized as a delicacy in parts of Asia, where their unique flavor and texture are considered a luxury. Despite their unusual appearance, geoducks are a valuable part of the marine ecosystem, playing a crucial role in filtering water and cycling nutrients. So yes, it does live quite the long time. And ironically, this creature is easy to measure age-wise due to its own ring that it produces as it ages along. Researchers often study these growth rings to gather valuable information about historical ocean conditions, making geoducks not just a culinary curiosity but also a scientific treasure trove. Number 5. Jean-Louise Calment. We took our time getting here, but now we're going to talk about humans. Yes, humans, aka, you and I, depending on what you do in life, how you take care of your body, and just your overall luck, humans can live far beyond those expectations that are often thrown at them. The best example of this would be Jean-Louise Calment, who was the oldest confirmed person to have ever lived. Ever. She died at the very young age of 122, which is a lot of world events to have gone through in your life. To put that into perspective, Jean was born in 1875 and lived through 2 world wars, the advent of cars and airplanes, and even the invention of the internet. She reportedly met Vincent van Gogh when she was a young girl, describing him as dirty, badly dressed, and disagreeable. Her long life was attributed to her optimistic attitude, daily consumption of olive oil, and a penchant for eating chocolate and drinking port wine. Now, I carefully said confirmed person because there have been people who have claimed to have been older but were either lying or could not definitively prove that fact. There were those who made incredibly bold claims, like they were over 200 years old or even 300 years old. Regardless of any of that nonsense, Jean was the oldest amongst us, and it will take quite the feat to ever break her record. In modern times, advancements in medicine, nutrition, and technology have made it conceivable that future generations might eventually surpass her remarkable lifespan. Number 4. Ctenophora. Now, I'm going to call these creatures by their other name, comb jellies, and you can find them in just about every major body of water all over the world. They have that far of a reach. The actual lifespan of a comb jelly is not really all that impressive, as they can sometimes get to about 3 years, but that's not what I'm going to focus on here, because there are some who feel that this species is actually the oldest living species on Earth, with some saying that it was around almost 700 million years ago. What makes comb jellies even more fascinating is their mesmerizing movement. They propel themselves through water using rows of tiny, hair-like structures called cilia, which shimmer with rainbow colors as light refracts through them. These creatures also lack a brain, but they have a simple nerve net that helps them coordinate their movements and sense their environment. Another thing to note here is that these creatures can reproduce asexually and in a unique way. Specifically, they will break off part of themselves, and that part will regenerate into a brand new creature, even growing on its own in a way. They are also capable of sexual reproduction, with many comb jellies being hermaphroditic, meaning they possess both male and female reproductive organs. If they keep on doing that, the original source will never really die. Scientists believe this regenerative ability and their ancient lineage provide valuable insights into the evolution of multicellular life on Earth. Number 3. Lobsters. I'm going to make you a little bit hungry with the next one, but trust me, it's going to be worth it. More than likely, lobsters may be one of your favorite seafood treats, but they're also a very special sea creature because they technically never stop growing. All they do is molt off their shell and then they grow again after that. This molting process not only allows them to increase in size, but also gives them a chance to regenerate lost claws or legs, making them truly resilient creatures. Because of this rare trait, they just keep on going, and that makes it hard to really determine exactly how long that they can actually live. Scientists have discovered that as lobsters age, they don't show typical signs of aging, like losing fertility or a decline in physical function. They also produce an enzyme called telomerase, which repairs their DNA and contributes to their longevity. The oldest one ever recorded based on molting and growth was called George, and he apparently lived to be 140 years old. George was captured off the coast of Newfoundland and later released back into the ocean after his story gained international attention. If they can stay alive for even longer, well, that's quite the impressive thing. It raises the fascinating question: could lobsters theoretically live forever if they weren't caught or succumb to disease? Number 2. Little Mama. Now, we'll shift things from one mammal to another by talking about chimpanzees. All kinds of primates are found all over the world, but you likely would never think that many of them would have the longest of lives. Yet, for one chimp named Little Mama, it not only had a long life in captivity but also set the Guinness World Record by being 77 years old when it broke it. Although sadly, she died not long after. Little Mama's longevity can be attributed to the exceptional care she received in her later years, including a balanced diet, regular medical checkups, and a safe, enriching environment. Researchers studying her noted how her social interactions with other chimpanzees and her caretakers helped maintain her mental and emotional well-being. At her advanced age, Little Mama became a symbol of resilience, inspiring efforts to improve the lives of primates in captivity worldwide. Beyond her circus and ice capita career, Little Mama was also a subject of primate research, providing valuable insights into chimpanzee aging and behavior. Her ability to adapt to changing environments and maintain her playful nature even in her senior years was remarkable. Her story highlighted the importance of conservation efforts and ethical treatment of primates. Even still, though, it is quite the impressive feat that the chimp was able to live that long, given all of the things and the actions that it was part of. It was part of a traveling circus of all sorts at one point and was even in the ice capita. Clearly, it is a very talented monkey. Number 1. The Earth. I know we decided to pull a fast one on you at the end because if you do really think about it, the Earth is kind of like a living creature. I mean, after all, it's what makes our lives possible by giving us air, shielding out the harmful radiation of the sun, and giving everyone its light and warmth. Oh, and it also has various cycles that it goes through to both make things live and grow along the way. Plus, one of the biggest discussions out there is that of how exactly old the Earth is. Say, for instance, if you were to believe in the Big Bang, you would say it's a couple billion, and it's one that did have to grow to become the adult form that it is now. As for actually how long the Earth may last, that really kind of depends on human beings' lifestyles, habits, climate change, All of that stuff is all said to be contributors to the Earth slowly dying, and that it could die naturally, which is why people are eager to start colonizing other planets. Until that happens, though, let's all try to be just a little bit nicer to the Earth. That's it for today's look at animals with shockingly long lifespans, including some that can even surpass human lifetimes. Which of these creatures surprised you the most with their age? Did you already know they could live that long? Perhaps there's another animal or species with an incredible lifespan that should have made this list. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the other cool videos showing up on the screen, and I'll see you next time.